Have you ever found yourself sort of stuck in a routine, like almost on autopilot?
Mm-hmm.
And you stop and think, wait, why? Why am I doing this? How did this even become a thing?
Totally, that feeling of automaticity.
Could be anything, right? That afternoon snack you don't really need. Or hitting snooze 5 times. Again.
Oh yeah, the snooze button war. Been there.
Or maybe just that morning coffee ritual
Yeah.
that feels, well, absolutely non-negotiable.
Right. Can't start the day without it.
We all have these habits, don't we?
Yeah.
Good ones, not so good ones, and some that are just kind of mysterious, running things behind the scenes.
It's a really powerful feeling, isn't it? That sense that certain behaviors are just, well, pre-programmed, like a script running in the background.
Absolutely. And that fascinating power, that's exactly what we're exploring today. Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive.
Yep, this is where we take complex topics, dig through the sources, and pull out the key insights for you.
Our mission today, to crack the code of human behavior by diving deep into Charles Duhigg's fantastic book, The Power of Habit, Why We Do What We Do in Life and Business.
And it's a really wide-ranging look, isn't it? He pulls from, well, everything. Individual psychology, brain science, corporate turnarounds, even social movements.
He really does. Duhigg weaves together hundreds of academic studies, talks to neuroscientists, CEOs. It's incredibly thorough. Really reveals the hidden architecture of our daily lives.
So the big question we're tackling in this deep dive is, how do habits actually form in our brains, neurologically?
And how much do they really influence us? Our choices, our successes, our failures.
And maybe the most practical question for all of us listening, can we genuinely change them? Or are we just stuck repeating patterns?
The answers, based on Duhigg's work, are honestly pretty surprising. And empowering, too. So let's get into it.
Okay, so to really get habits, you have to start with this core discovery from MIT researchers back in the 90s. They called it the habit loop.
Not just a metaphor, right? This is like the neurological blueprint.
Exactly. It's a 3-step process baked into our brains. First, there's a cue. That's the trigger, the thing that tells your brain, okay, time to run this automatic program.
Got it, like the notification sound on your phone.
Precisely. Then comes the routine. That's the behavior itself, picking up the phone, opening the app.
And the final piece.
The reward. This is crucial. It's what tells your brain, hey, that felt good, or that solved a problem. It helps the brain figure out if this whole loop is worth remembering for the future.
Cue, routine, reward. Simple, but wow, the implications. Duhigg uses Lisa's story right at the start, and it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, Lisa's story is amazing. After a really rough divorce, she was in a bad place, binge eating, smoking heavily, feeling heartbroken.
And she makes this, impulsive decision to go to Cairo.
Right. And one morning there, feeling disoriented, she reaches for a cigarette, but tries to light a pen instead.
A small thing, but...
But it sparked something, a conviction. She realized, I have to quit smoking if I want to actually experience seeing the pyramids. It was this tiny shift in perspective, but it became her turning point.
And it wasn't just smoking, was it? That one change set off a chain reaction.
Totally. Brain scan researchers actually observed this. She replaced smoking with jogging. That led to eating healthier, sleeping better, saving money.
Didn't she end up running marathons going back to school?
Yep. Bought a house, got engaged. The brain scans showed her old patterns. The neurological pathways for smoking and overeating were still there. But new activity, especially in areas linked to self-discipline, started to basically crowd them out. New urges replaced the old ones.
That's incredible. One intentional change dominoing like that. But what about habits we form without even realizing it, or without strong memories? That leads to Eugene's story, which is just mind-blowing.
Eugene. Yeah, his case is fascinating. He had severe amnesia, couldn't remember almost anything day-to-day, doctors' names, the date, couldn't even draw a map of his own house. But, and this is the key thing, he could still form new habits and maintain old ones.
How is that even possible without memory?
It pointed researchers straight to the basal ganglia. It's this older part of the brain, kind of walnut-sized. It stores and recalls patterns for automatic actions. It can run these habit loops even when the parts of the brain for conscious memory are effectively offline.
So he wouldn't remember making breakfast.
Right. But if the morning cues were there, radio on, sunlight, he'd automatically get up, walk to the kitchen, cook bacon and eggs. He might even do it again an hour later if the cue's repeated because he wouldn't remember doing it the first time.
That is unsettling. Habits running completely separate from awareness.
It is. He could also walk around his block every day, couldn't tell you the route, couldn't draw it, but guided by cues, that specific tree, that mailbox, he'd complete the loop and end up back home. No memory of the walk itself.
So the big takeaway there is habits are deep.
Yeah.
Really deep. They don't just vanish.
Exactly. They're encoded, always there, just waiting for the cue. And sometimes they're so strong they override everything else. Think about those mouse experiments.
Oh, yeah, where they kept pressing the lever for food even when...
Even when the food was poisoned or they got an electric shock. The habit loop was so ingrained it just overrode basic survival instincts, common sense.
Wow. That's, yeah, powerful and a bit scary. So, okay, the cue routine reward loop is the structure. But Duhigg says that's not the whole story. There's something else driving it, right?
Yes. The real engine, the thing that makes the loop truly compelling and automatic, is craving.
Craving, the anticipation of the reward.
Exactly. It's not just getting the reward, it's the wanting of the reward that locks the habit in place.
The Pepsodent story is a perfect example of this, isn't it? Early 20th century, toothbrushing wasn't common.
Not at all. Then this ad man, Claude Hopkins, comes along and turns Pepsodent into a massive bestseller. Within 10 years, like, half of America is brushing daily.
And he claimed it was about the cue tooth film and the reward beautiful teeth. Simple logic.
That was the public story. But the real secret, discovered later, was something else entirely. Pepsodent had ingredients like mint oils and citric acid that created this cool, tingling sensation in the mouth.
Ah, the tingle.
Yes. People didn't necessarily believe their teeth were dramatically cleaner, but they missed that tingle if they skipped brushing with Pepsodent. That sensation became the craving. It signaled clean.
So it wasn't the logical benefit, but a physical feeling they craved.
Precisely. And get this, almost all modern toothpastes still include foaming agents and minty flavors just to create that expected sensation. That's the legacy of Hopkins figuring out the power of craving.
That's wild. Febreze had a similar kind of journey, right? It started as an odor eliminator, but totally failed.
It bombed initially. P&G couldn't figure it out. People weren't buying it to get rid of bad smells consistently. Because, as one executive realized, people don't really crave the absence of a smell. They become noseblind to bad odors.
So what was the fix?
They noticed people, especially women who just finished cleaning a room, would spray Febreze as a final touch, like a little ritual.
Ah, not to remove a smell, but to add one.
Exactly. They reformulated and remarketed it. The cue became finishing the cleaning routine. The routine was spraying Febreze. And the reward was that little burst of clean, fresh scent that signaled completion and satisfaction. People started craving that smell as the finishing touch to their cleaning. Billion-dollar product.
All about finding the right reward that triggers a craving. And neurologically, we can see this craving happen, like with Julio the monkey.
Yeah, Wolfram Schultz's experiments were groundbreaking. He trained Julio, C-shape on scream, cue, pull a lever routine, get blackberry juice, reward.
Okay.
But the fascinating part was when Julio's brain activity spiked. It wasn't when the juice arrived. It spiked before, as soon as the cue appeared. His brain was lighting up in anticipation and craving for the juice.
He was already experiencing the pleasure of the reward, neurologically speaking.
You got it. And if the juice was delayed or watered down, his brain patterns showed desire, frustration. He'd get visibly upset.
Just like us, when the Wi-Fi cuts out midstream or that email notification cue makes us crave the distraction reward.
Exactly. That unmet craving can drive strong emotions. It's the real powerhouse behind the habit loop.
Okay, so if craving is the engine, and we understand the cue routine reward loop, how do we actually change a habit we don't want? This leads to the golden rule, right?
Yes, the golden rule of habit change. It sounds simple, but it's profound. Keep the old cue, keep the old reward, but insert a new routine.
Don't try to fight the cue or ignore the reward. Just change the middle part.
Precisely. Alcoholics Anonymous is a classic example. They help people identify their drinking cues, maybe stress, social anxiety, boredom, and the reward they seek, relaxation, connection, escape.
Okay.
Then AA provides a new routine. Attending meetings, calling a sponsor, working the steps. These new routines address the same cues and offer similar rewards, community, stress reduction, but without the alcohol.
But there's another layer needed for it to really stick, especially long-term.
Yes. Research highlighted in the book found a critical extra ingredient: belief. People in AA who developed a belief, whether in a higher power, the group, or just in their own capacity to change, were far more likely to stay sober, especially during really stressful times when others might relapse.
That belief component seems crucial, like a buffer. We see it on the individual level, too, like with Mandy and her nail biting.
Right. Mandy's case used habit reversal training. First step, awareness. She had to figure out her cue. What triggered the biting? She realized it was this subtle feeling of tension in her fingertips.
Okay, so she identified the cue, then the new routine.
The competing response. Whenever she felt that tension cue, she was trained to immediately do something else, put her hands in her pockets, grip a pencil, basically anything that made biting impossible. And crucially, she followed that with a quick physical stimulation like rubbing her arm to satisfy the underlying reward or craving she associated with biting.
So the cue, tension was the same. The reward, some kind of physical sensation or release was delivered, but the routine, biting, was replaced.
Exactly. The competing routine became automatic over time. It crowded out the old habit. You have to consciously design a new routine that works with the existing cue and reward.
And this isn't just for personal habits. Tony Dungy used this brilliantly with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers football team.
Yeah.
They were, well, not great.
They were considered pretty hopeless, yeah. Dungy's approach was radical. He didn't install some super complex playbook. Instead, he focused on drilling a few key defensive and offensive moves over and over and over.
Until they were automatic.
Until they were pure habit. He wanted to remove the need for players to think too much in high-pressure moments. Thinking is too slow. Habits are fast.
Like telling a defensive end to just watch the lineman's foot and shoulder. Ignore everything else.
Exactly. Simple cues, automatic reactions. He trained safety John Lynch to react to formations and automatically move to a spot on the field before the ball was even snapped. It led to interceptions because he was reacting habitually, not analyzing consciously.
Removing the decision-making load. But again, the belief part mattered.
Hugely. The team started winning, but they truly became champions when they started to believe in the system, believe in themselves, especially when facing adversity in the playoffs. That belief cemented the habits under pressure.
So these principles scale up.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings us to the idea of keystone habits. These sound really important.
They are. A keystone habit is like a foundation stone. It's one habit that, when you change it, starts this positive cascade. It dislodges other bad habits and helps good ones form. It creates a ripple effect.
The example of Paul O'Neill at Alcoa is just striking. He takes over this struggling aluminum company.
And his first speech to Wall Street isn't about profits or restructuring. He says his #1 priority is worker safety, 0 injuries.
The analysts must have thought he was nuts.
They did. But O'Neill knew safety was a potential keystone habit. To improve safety, you had to understand why injuries happened. That meant redesigning manufacturing processes, which also improved efficiency and quality. It meant fixing broken equipment promptly.
I see. So fixing safety forced fixes elsewhere.
Exactly. It required better communication between workers and managers. People had to feel safe reporting problems. This focus on one thing, safety, unintentionally created habits of operational excellence throughout the entire company. Alcoa's profits soared, and it became one of the safest companies in the world.
Wow. One habit transforming a whole corporate culture. It's like Michael Phelps and his visualization routine.
Right. His coach, Bob Bowman, focused on a few core routines, but the keystone was visualizing the perfect race every single night before sleep, every morning upon waking.
So he wasn't just swimming laps.
No, he was building a mental habit. Visualizing every detail, the dive, the strokes, the turns, even potential problems and how he'd react.
So when his goggles filled with water in the Beijing Olympics,
he didn't panic. He'd already mentally rehearsed swimming blind, counting his strokes. The keystone habit of visualization gave him the mental resilience and focus to perform perfectly even when things went wrong. It became automatic.
That ties into willpower, too.
Yeah.
We often think of it as just grit, but the book says it's more like a muscle.
Yeah, that's based on research by Mark Muravin and others. Willpower isn't infinite. It gets fatigued, like that famous experiment.
The radish and cookie one.
That's the one. Students who had to use willpower to resist fresh-baked cookies and eat radishes instead. They gave up much faster on a subsequent, unrelated, difficult puzzle task. Their willpower muscle was tired out.
But the good news is you can strengthen it.
Absolutely. Like any muscle. Studies showed that people who consistently exercise willpower in one area of their life, say sticking to an exercise program or a money management plan, got better at self-control overall.
It spills over.
Yeah. They smoked less, ate healthier, watched less TV, were more productive. Strengthening willpower in one domain builds the muscle for others.
Starbucks actually trains this, don't they, with their employees?
They invest millions in it. They recognize that dealing with, say, an angry customer requires immense willpower, especially repeatedly. So they teach routines like the latte method.
Latte, like the drink.
Ha, yeah. It stands for listen, acknowledge, take action, thank, explain. It's a pre-planned script, a habit, for handling difficult customer interactions. It reduces the cognitive load and the willpower drain at those crucial moments, those inflection points.
So it makes willpower habitual, automatic.
Exactly. It helped people like Travis Leach, who started with challenges, learn to manage stores effectively by turning willpower into a reliable routine.
This idea of routines being disrupted, that leads to the power of a crisis. When things are chaotic, habits can change more easily.
That's a key insight. During periods of turmoil or crisis, organizational habits become surprisingly malleable. Old ways of doing things break down.
Like at Rhode Island Hospital, they had these dangerous, informal systems.
Yeah, terrible truces and workarounds that had built up over years, leading to awful errors, even surgeons operating on the wrong side of a patient's body. Attempts to change failed because the existing habits were too entrenched.
But then a crisis hit.
A huge public crisis, media exposés, state regulators threatening action. That shock, that jolt, suddenly made the staff open to changes they'd resisted for years. Teamwork training, checklists, mandatory video recording in ORs, new leadership. The crisis broke the old dysfunctional habit.
It created an opening, unlike, say, the King's Crossfire in London.
Right, that was a tragic counterexample. Deeply ingrained organizational habits, different departments not communicating, locked blueprints, rigid procedures prevented an effective response and contributed to the disaster. The crisis didn't lead to positive change quickly enough.
It really highlights that Rahm Emanuel quote, "You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. It's an opportunity, albeit a painful one."
A critical window for reshaping ingrained patterns.
Now, shifting gears slightly, how do companies use habits to sell us things? The Target pregnancy predictor story is kind of spooky.
It is a bit unsettling, yeah. Andrew Pohl developed this algorithm for Target that could analyze shopping data, buying unscented lotion, cotton balls, supplements, and predict, with scary accuracy, if a customer was pregnant, sometimes before the family knew.
Okay, that's a lot of insight.
It raised huge ethical questions. Target found that if they sent explicitly baby-related coupons to someone they predicted was pregnant, people got creeped out. It felt like spying.
So what did they do?
They learned to camouflage it. They'd still send the baby coupons, but they'd mix them in with ads for totally unrelated things, lawnmowers, wine glasses, stuff the person would normally buy anyway. It made the targeted ads feel random and less invasive.
Wow, so the lesson is, make the new feel familiar.
Exactly. To introduce a new habit or sell a new product, you often need to wrap it in something old and comfortable. Dress something new in old clothes.
Like that song Hey Ya by Outkast. It was so different, radio stations didn't know what to do with it at first.
Right. It initially flopped because it sounded too unfamiliar. So DJs started sandwiching it, playing it between two massive, familiar hits. Listeners heard it repeatedly in a comfortable context, and eventually, the unfamiliar became familiar. The Hey Ya habit was formed. Huge hit.
Same idea with getting Americans to eat organ meats during World War II rationing.
Yep. Disguise the unfamiliar liver or kidneys in familiar meatloaf for stew recipes. Or the YMCA boosting membership retention, not just by focusing on exercise, but by tapping into existing social habits, encouraging group activities, making connections, wrapping the new habit, exercise, in the familiar habit, socializing.
This idea of social habits is powerful. It scales up to whole movements like the Montgomery Bus Boycott.
Absolutely. Rosa Parks' incredibly brave act wasn't in a vacuum. The initial momentum, the spark, came from her strong ties, her close friends, church members, activists she knew well. They mobilized quickly.
But how did it spread beyond her immediate circle?
Through weak ties. The broader community connection. People saw flyers, read newspaper articles, heard about it from neighbors. There was a growing sense of peer pressure, a community expectation you were either with the boycott or seen as against it. That social habit of participation took hold.
That makes sense. And Rick Warren used similar ideas to build Saddleback Church.
He did. He tapped into existing social needs and habits. He addressed common complaints people had about church, made it feel welcoming. But critically, he built the church around small groups.
For connection.
For social connection, yes. That tapped into a familiar social habit. Then, within those groups, he taught specific daily habits, prayer time, tithing, attending the group, which reinforced a shared identity and made spiritual growth feel self-directed and habitual.
And Martin Luther King Jr.'s leadership,
Mm.
reframing the boycott.
That was crucial when momentum seemed to be fading under pressure and violence. MLK didn't just call for endurance, he reframed the entire struggle. It wasn't just a fight against segregation, it was an embrace of nonviolence, linked to Christian love and a higher moral purpose.
Giving people new habits like turning the other cheek.
Exactly. New habits that became expressions of faith and allegiance to the movement. It created a powerful new identity and made the movement self-sustaining, teaching these new nonviolent behaviors in mass meetings.
Okay, so we've seen habits shape individuals, companies, society. Which brings us back to a really fundamental, almost philosophical question the book raises. Free will. How much choice do we actually have?
It's the big lingering question, isn't it? If our actions are so heavily driven by these unconscious loops, how responsible are we?
The story of Angie Bachman, the gambling addict, that really hits hard.
Yeah, she lost everything, hundreds of thousands, due to a gambling habit that spiraled out of control. And the neuroscience is revealing here. Pathological gamblers' brains react differently to near misses, when the slot machine almost lines up. Their brains register a near miss, almost like a win. It triggers that reward pathway, creating a powerful craving to keep playing. Non-problem gamblers don't have that same neurological reaction. And casinos actually design machines to have more near misses, exploiting this very vulnerability.
So, was Angie making a fully conscious choice each time she placed a bet, when her brain was basically hijacked by that craving triggered by near misses?
It's a deeply troubling question. And then you have even more extreme cases like Brian Thomas.
The man who killed his wife while sleepwalking.
Yes, during a sleep terror. His defense was automatism, arguing that his actions were unconscious, driven by the sleep disorder, completely outside his conscious control, and he was acquitted.
And he wasn't the only case like that mentioned.
No. The law, in some instances, seems to recognize that certain ingrained habits or unconscious states can genuinely overwhelm conscious choice. Society, through the courts, acknowledges limits to free will in these extreme circumstances.
It's complex. Where does that leave us? Are we just puppets of our habits?
Well, that's the crucial point. While the book emphasizes the immense power of habits, the ultimate message isn't one of determinism. It's not saying we have no choice. Habits are powerful, yes. Often unconscious, yes. But they are not destiny.
They are malleable.
They are malleable. You can choose your habits, you can understand them, dissect them, and intentionally redesign them. And Duhigg argues that once you make that choice, once you understand the mechanics, you gain power over them. When the new choice becomes automatic, that's when it starts to feel inevitable. But it started with awareness and a decision.
So, for everyone listening, feeling maybe a bit overwhelmed by their own habits, what's the practical takeaway? How can you apply this?
The book offers a clear framework, really, 4 steps.
Okay, step 1.
Identify the routine. Be really specific about the behavior you want to change. What exactly are you doing?
Got it. Step 2.
Experiment with rewards. This takes some trial and error. What craving is really driving that routine? Is it hunger, boredom, stress relief, a need for connection? Try different rewards to see what truly satisfies that underlying urge. Maybe instead of a cookie, it's a quick walk or chatting with a coworker for 5 minutes.
Find the real reward. Okay. Step 3.
Isolate the cue. This is like detective work. When does the urge hit? Pinpoint the trigger. Duhigg suggests looking at 5 categories. Location, where are you? Time, what time is it? Emotional state, how are you feeling? Other people, who else is around? Immediately preceding action, what did you just do? Tracking this helps you find the consistent trigger.
Location, time, emotion, people, preceding action. Got it. And the final step.
Have a plan. Once you know the cue, routine, and reward, create an implementation intention. Decide in advance. When cue happens, I will do new routine to get reward. Write it down, rehearse it mentally. Having a plan makes it much more likely you'll follow through when the cue hits.
Identify routine, experiment with rewards, isolate cue, have a plan. That feels doable, actionable.
It is. It puts the power back in your hands. Our habits truly are the invisible architecture of our lives, shaping almost everything we do, often without us even noticing. As the philosopher William James put it, all our life, so far as it has definite form, is but a mass of habits.
Wow. That really lands. And maybe a final thought to leave everyone with. David Foster Wallace told that story, right? About the fish.
Oh yeah, the fish story. It's perfect. 2 young fish are swimming along, and they pass an older fish who nods and says, "Morning, boys. How's the water?"
And the two young fish swim on, and eventually one looks at the other and goes,
What the hell is water?
exactly. Our habits are our water. They surround us, they sustain us, they influence everything, but most of the time, we're completely unaware of them.
But understanding that they are the water, understanding how they work, how the currents flow, that gives you the incredible power to actually change the water, to reshape your environment, your routines, and ultimately, your life.